Good morning, and welcome to Living Better with Chronic Illness with Dr. Larry Berkelhammer. Good morning, Dr. Berkelhammer.
Morning, Phil. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
I read on your website this morning 3 intriguing topics. Train your mind, evolve your brain. That in itself is intriguing. Mindfulness in the world of chronic illness. And self-acceptance of private events. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean with those 3 concepts?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
What I discovered is that living with chronic illness, it's important to eat right, eat a nutrient-dense diet. It's important to exercise, get the right amount of exercise, get the right amount of sleep, stress management. There are a lot of things. But you can do all those things and it's not enough. There's always more. And what I discovered to be an extremely powerful thing is mind training. We want to train the mind because we have a pharmacy in our brains, the Endogenous Pharmacy, and the more we train our minds, the more we can access those drugs that are prescribed by the brain and made in the body for us. So there are many ways to train the brain.
One moment, Endogenous Pharmacy, for those who might not have seen that.
So
Endogenous means the pharmacy within your body.
Exactly. Mindfulness training, from all the evidence that I've seen, seems to be the most powerful way of training the mind and improving your health and improving your way of life. There are many other ways. Some of them are other forms of meditation, like the relaxation response, which is, or transcendental meditation, from which it evolved. Biofeedback is a big one. That's, in fact, neurofeedback, which is electroencephalography. EEG biofeedback is another way to train the mind and train the brain, train the mind and evolve the brain. The interesting thing about mindfulness is there are new studies in the last 10 years. The most well-known ones are by Dr. Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, where they have flown Buddhist monks to Wisconsin and they studied them in the scanners. They're doing fMRI scanners and they meditate in the scanner and they have studied their brains. And what they have discovered, what the researchers have discovered, is that mindfulness meditation actually evolves the brain. When you practice every day mindfulness meditation over a period of time, you grow your brain. It's a more highly evolved brain. The most amazing thing is, it's not just the monks who have been meditating for 8 hours a day for 20 years. No. They put people in an 8-week class. It was a class in mindfulness-based stress reduction, most often known as MBSR. And after just 8 weeks in the class, the brains of these people had evolved. Now you have to keep it up, and that's the trick, because most of us have found, I've had a sitting meditation practice since 1972, and I'll admit that in the now 40 years since then, there have been long periods where I've not been disciplined enough to continue meditating every day. It's important to keep it up every day.
Now, is meditation the way I learn how to be mindful?
Yeah, the word meditation can mean a lot of different things, because people meditate with prayer, people meditate with mantras. The meditation that is the type of research I'm talking about, where they've evolved the brain, that's the mindfulness meditation.
That's the one I want to hear about.
And that is, essentially, you start off by improving your concentration. You begin to focus on one object of attention. And the most common one is the sensations of respiration. So as you're sitting there, you're breathing. And if you notice, tune in, where do you feel? How do you know you're breathing? Where do you feel it? Usually we feel it, the air going in our nostrils. We feel chest expansion as the lungs inflate and deflate. As the lungs inflate, all the organs in the body are pushed downward. And you can feel that. You can feel the back being pushed out. You can feel all these sensations. The idea is to tune into one of these, whatever one you like. Personally, I like feeling abdominal expansion and contraction with the in-breath and out-breath. So I maintain a concentration on that, and I build concentration by practicing that every day. Now, once you've built a certain degree of concentration, then comes the mindfulness piece. That's where you begin to actually see your thinking process. And you begin to see it without judging it, without becoming fused with it. It's a way of just observing our thinking process. Like, oh, there's that thought again. Oh, there's that feeling again. There's that sensation again. But you're doing it from afar. You're not in a state of fusion with it. And that is mindfulness. When you can actually see where the mind goes, and then you come back to the object of focus.
And how does this knowledge reduce the suffering of a person who's chronically ill?
The suffering in chronic illness, actually it's not just in chronic illness, suffering, period, all forms of suffering, whether it's psychological, emotional, all suffering is the result of getting caught up in the attributions that we assign to some event, whether it's pain, fatigue, malaise, something someone else is doing, some situation.
What do you mean with the word attribution?
So, if I say to myself, this pain in my side means, oh, that's probably a tumor.
You're attributing to
I'm attributing the pain to the tumor.
Okay.
Now, if I can immediately recognize what I've done and step back from that and say, oh, isn't that interesting? Look what my mind does. Now, that's mindfulness. When I have the ability to step back from that and see my thoughts, I'm practicing mindfulness. Sitting meditation is the practice that cultivates mindfulness. But mindfulness, the idea is to practice mindfulness anytime we're awake, to be practicing mindfulness. When I wake up in the middle of the night, if I have trouble sleeping, I'm practicing mindfulness. I'm watching my thoughts and following my breath. It's funny, when you learn meditation, you're told to sit in these upright postures. There are many different postures. We don't need to go into them, but to be sitting upright so that you don't fall asleep. But if you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to be sleeping, I'm lying down in bed and I'm meditating. What's the worst that can happen? I fall asleep, and that happens. But until I fall asleep, I'm observing my thoughts. I'm observing the physical sensations of the lungs inflating and deflating. I'm practicing mindfulness. That eliminates the suffering. It just eliminates it because I'm no longer attributing anything to something else. I'm just being with whatever is. I'm seeing it for what it is. Oh, it's just a thought. That's just an emotion. I'm feeling a little anxious, but I'm not caught up in it. It's like, oh, I'm feeling the sensations that I attribute to anxiety, but I don't need to get caught up in it. Or I'm feeling kind of how I feel when I say I'm depressed, but I don't need to say I'm depressed because that's getting caught up in it if I say I'm depressed. I just note it. So whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, whatever it is, mindfulness means just observing it without getting caught up in it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.